mystery. That's what we've been doing is talking about the mystery of God and how we experience and what we know and cannot know, and all of those really tough questions that we don't actually have answers for them. What's beautiful about that is that we think we need answers and we don't. So there's a bit of a breath to take there. It's okay, we don't have answers. We go, oh, okay, that's fine. In fact, what I want to talk a little bit about today is not only that we don't necessarily need the answers, but in not knowing some things, in having a bit of mystery, and a bit of mysticism, don't say that too loud, we get some passion and it's that door always right in the middle of like this main point. We waited just for that. What's exciting is that in that bit of mystery, in that bit of mysticism, we get to discover some passion. We get to look out into the universe and go, man, I can't even fathom how all of this works, and that's okay, and it's good, and it impassions us to find and discover more and to listen harder and more closely and more intently. And those are all good things. And so there is a bit of relief, but also a bit of wisdom in that mystery. So this morning I want to talk what we cannot know about God. What we cannot know about God is what we're trying to do this morning. Let's do some theology work real quick. So often, as you start getting into the theology of God and what we know about God, you get into a question, you get into this division of what we know about God. You have, and this is, you don't need all this, but we're going to do it anyway because it's fun for me to look at your faces go. You have the immanent Trinity and the economic Trinity. And we often talk about what we know about God in this immanent and economic. And they're not positive or negative in either side of it. Just because it's economic doesn't make it bad. Because it's immanent doesn't make it inherently better. What we're talking about is how you know what you know about God. And so with the immanent Trinity, we are talking about the inner workings of the Trinity. What we know about God from talking about the immanent Trinity is how God relates to God's self within the Trinity, that self-sacrificing, mutual loving relationship that happens that shows us what it means to be relational people. Those are things you can't see. You can't go, oh, look, there's the immanent Trinity. These are all things up in the air that we do in our heads that is really difficult to figure out and think on, and we're probably wrong about all of it. Economic Trinity is what we see God doing in our lives, in the world. We look out into the world, well, God, look at how amazing this is. Look at this tiny little weed that blossoms this beautiful flower. A weed, I learned from Bob's Burgers, is just a flower in the right flower in the wrong place, okay? Anyway, we see the blooming of this weed, and we look at the beauty of this flower in the midst of some patch of whatever, and we see God working, if that's how you want to view it. That is the economic Trinity at work. It's what we see God doing. Think about it like this. Let's do a couple of things here. I'm a parent of two. They know things about me based on what I do in their life. They learn, and I want them to know about me, but they learn about me by what I reveal to them. And they go to school all day, and I go somewhere else, and they don't know what happens or how that goes, and who I am deeper inside of it is really unknowable to them. What they see of parents is when we care for them, when we make meals, when we discipline them, when we address certain things that are going on, when we interact and play games, those are all, for lack of a better term, those are all the economic ways of them learning who I am. What they don't know is how I think and who I am sort of internally. And for that matter, you don't either, right? I mean, unless I tell you, right? Those are all things that are economic ways. One more. Now, I go to work and then I don't ever go home from work. But a lot of jobs, you go to work, you show up, you do your job, and then you go home. What your boss or employer or employees, for that matter, know about you only is what you do while you're there. And maybe if you've made the mistake of mixing Facebook with your workplace, they know other things that you do and publish and share about yourself, right? Only what they know is what you do at work. And so if you go to work and work in computer systems all day, they know you as a computer systems programmer. And you're a pretty boring person because you show up and you do computer systems programming all day, and then you go home and you may climb Mount Everest on the weekend. Takes longer than that, FYI. You may climb Mount Everest on the weekend, but what they know about you, or you may have this great passion for whatever, what they know about you is what you do day in and day out. It is all they know. They know an economic way of you. We know how God works around us. That's what we know. We see God working in our lives. We see God working in the world, in creation, in love, in the process of birth and renewal and life, in all of these different ways. We see God working. What we don't know is what God does on his weekend, right? Why does God do it? How does God think about this? How does the inner workings of the Trinity, you really want to have some fun? How does the inner workings of the Trinity happen and all of this stuff? Those are things we can't know. We can talk all day, or we can spend, I'm going to quote someone in just a minute, spend our whole lives talking about the immanent Trinity and what we know about God based, and here's the thing, that is always a conversation based on what we see God do. Then we begin to extrapolate and go, oh, well, God must be this kind of God. So that's all fun and good, right? So we have the economic and we have the immanent. And we talk about the economic. We talk about God working in our lives and how it changes us and how we experience God, which is what we did last week. But beyond that, we often throw our hands up and say, I have no idea beyond that. And that's okay. It's okay and it's good. It's good for you not to think you know everything about God, right? Yes, it's good for me not to know or think I know everything about God. We watched a movie this week called The Circle. Did anyone see this? 2, 3? Okay. The Circle is about a social media platform, inner workings of a company, and they work to reveal everything about everyone. And so this girl shows up to work, and she's just starting, and she gets like a weekend, and a few people come and visit her, and they say, we see, and it's like a big campus thing. They have nightlife and events and all kinds of stuff. We see that you left at 11:42 on Friday evening and came back to work at 7:30 a.m. on Monday, because they're all like connected. And she said, well, yeah, is that a problem? Oh, no, it's fine. But we, really want you to get involved with your coworkers, and your social score is how we evaluate how engaged you are in our community. And it moves into this crazy, weird place about transparency and revealing everything about your life for the whole world to see. Because there is an assumption that we should see everything. And I think we often think about God in the same way, is that we want some sort of transparency about who God is. And this is what our theology does to us. We say, okay, if God does this, this, and this, then we know this, this, and this about God. And we begin to explain it to ourselves until we have the whole picture wrapped around our heads, and we can put it in a nice little tight box, and we can wrap it up, and we can put a bow on it and say, now I know God. And the problem is, of course, that you can't. And what happened when they strapped this camera on this girl and said, we're going to see you every minute of every day and know your inner workings and who you are and be fully transparent, is that it was all really a farce at the end of the day. It was false. It was only still what she does that you actually see. You don't actually know who she is because inside there is more going on than you ever know. And the same way with God, there is more going on than we will ever know, and that's good because God is divinity and we are humanity, and we can't wrap our heads around that. Moses asks God, God says, I need you to go do me a favor and tell these people we're going to go now. And he says, well, who do I tell them that says to go? And God's response is, you tell them that I am, quotes, I am sent you. We did this the first week, Yahweh. You tell them that Yahweh sent you. Our best guess on what Yahweh means, I am, or I am who I am, or I will be who I will be, but whatever it is quite mysterious, and it is, I am being. What you know about me, you know about me. I am being. I am. That's it. I am. It's pretty mysterious. And then we moved last week into Elijah at Mount Horeb, and it wasn't in the great wind or the earthquake or the fire. It was in the gentle whisper or in the sheer silence that we meet God. Moses actually asks to meet God. And God, whatever this means, shows Moses his back. He says, okay, only my back. There is an inherent mystery and hiddenness about God through the text. Even, in fact, Isaiah declares, you, God, you are a God who hides yourself. Now, the irony in that statement is that everything we know about God is that God is revealing to us. God reveals to us because there is a desire to. What I share about myself with my kids is what I want them to know, right? They, for the most part, know about me what I want them to know about me. God reveals to us because there is a desire to do that. There's a desire to reveal who he is to us. So we ask these questions about knowing and experiencing. One thing that I find interesting in this conversation is that we think and we search and we look for more, to know, to see more, to understand more, and that's good. But what if we got to the end of that story? Just do a thought experiment with me. You've been studying Jesus, God, theology your whole life, and you get to the end. You've spent 35 years studying God, and you get to the end, and you're like, well, I'll start writing now because I know everything. and you write 14 volumes this thick. Karl Barth did that, by the way. What now? You've gotten to the end. You know everything about God. Now what? You write it down. You tell somebody. You twiddle your thumbs. Has anyone done a Rubik's Cube? 1? 2? A few of you? All right. They're fascinating if you're into that kind of thing, right? They're exciting because there's this mystery about it until you've done it. Now what? You do it faster. It's now just a cube that sits on your desk with different colors on it. And it's not fun anymore. And it's not exciting. And it doesn't entice you to pick it up and mix it up and do it again. Because now you know the secrets. And it's boring. I think about it. I think if you got to the end and you know what there is to know about God, I think something is lost in that story. I think you sit down, maybe take a deep breath, and then what? There's something beautiful at being able to look up into the heavens, into the skies, into the stars, at a solar eclipse, and go, I couldn't ever possibly know enough to understand or to comprehend. And there is that bit of mystery that drives us and gives us passion for more. If God is love and God expresses love through these channels, and I learn how to live that out, I am constantly at the forefront of my life saying, where can I see God working in the lives of others? Where can I see God moving through my own life? How can I be a channel to express that love in new and more creative, more innovative, more real ways in the world around me? We are an endless sea of suffering for us to practice God's love. And God is an endless sea of discovery for us to search and know and understand. And it might be here that you learn more about God. It might be in a closet with all the lights off. It might be in a thunderstorm, which you don't see a whole lot here, but you should visit Texas during storm season. It might be at the ocean. It might be in the relationship with your growing child that you see God and know more. But it is an endless sea of discovery. And unlike the Rubik's Cube, you don't get to the end. Some of you apparently didn't get to the end of the Rubik's Cube either. That doesn't make the Rubik's Cube God. Unlike the Rubik's Cube, it's an endless amount of discovery and knowing. But at the end of the day, we are always stopped short of knowing something beyond the economic, something beyond how God works and moves in us and in the lives around us. The Orthodox Church, which we're not, so this is somewhat relevant, but not, likes to emphasize the darkness of God. And that's not a negative term. It is the hiddenness. It is that which we cannot see or know. It is the mystery that we're talking about here, this darkness of God. In fact, throughout Christian tradition, we have highlighted often the mystery of God. Augustine declares, God is always greater. However much we may have grown. The beauty of that statement is the second we speak a word about God, it is already inferior and lacks its own understanding about God. Aquinas said, no created intellect can comprehend God wholly. And Barth, who we talked about earlier, God's hiddenness meets us in Christ and finally and supremely in the crucified Christ. For where is God so hidden as here? And where is the possibility of offense so great as here? So we haven't moved there yet. But a couple of weeks from now, we're going to move into the story of Jesus and knowing God in this economic space of how Jesus lived and acted is the most pristine image we have of God. And yet still, there is a hiddenness about how Jesus works, how Jesus expresses the knowledge of God through the story, through cross, and through resurrection. Search for the mystery this week. Take your time. You can read. You can sit in silence. You can sit at the night sky with the no stars because of the smoke, but a really cool moon, right? Yeah, huge and orangish. Sit in mystery and be okay with it. Take a deep breath, breathe that mystery in, and just allow God's mystery to settle in and drive you for more discovery.